I've been watching your channel for like a couple weeks, but like consistently I've been deep diving into it. And before we even get into veganism or activism, I wanted to know like your stance on the use of alcohol and drugs because I just saw the alcohol is poison video and all that. So I just wanted to see your full take on like the full spectrum of drug use and whether or not you think it's a pandemic or anything like that.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, well, I think that, alcohol, I think of alcohol as being a drug too.
Right.
And so I grew up in a household where there's some abusive alcoholism, like some people who drank alcohol and got a little abusive. So it just turned me off right from a young age. I got turned off of the idea of alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that it could, people could act a different way when they had been drinking. And I did try once when I was 17. I was at a house party and I got intoxicated off vodka and orange juice, and I vomited the next day at my dishwasher job at Pizza Hut. And then so I did try it, but I didn't like the taste of it. And
Right.
and then like later on in life, I learned about being straight edge, and I thought that was cool. And I like my brain just as it is. I personally don't feel a need to like alter my thinking by ingesting any mind altering substances. But I know that people have used like marijuana for pain, and I don't have any pain. But if I had pain, I would think that I'd be open to using marijuana to deal with the pain. And I'm hopeful that like right now under capitalism, I think people are suffering a lot. And I think if we created a shareocracy and we shared all the resources and made a world where everyone's needs were all met and all the necessities were free, like free healthcare, food, housing, and everything, that
Right.
people, if they had their needs met, then they wouldn't lose their interest in using drugs so much. But and I'm also in favor of decriminalizing all drugs. And people need help, not to. And I'm against the idea of punishment altogether. I think we're all here to help each other, not to hurt each other.
It's interesting you said the decriminalization aspect there. I thought you were going to be on the other side of that spectrum. I actually share the same opinion about decriminalization of all illicit substances.
Yeah.
And so how do you feel about, like, for example, the opioid crisis or something like that? You think that it should be like a social welfare assistance thing and not necessarily a demonizing the drug itself, or what is your view
Yeah,
on
definitely. Yeah, not demonizing the drugs or the people using the drugs, and just helping people in any way we can help them. Yeah, and imagine that you're out on the streets. Like, how hard would it be to stop using alcohol and other drugs when you're suffering out on the streets? Yeah, like even though I'm against alcohol personally, I think of it as being poison. I realize that some in this world right now where people are addicted. Like, one time I was in Toronto and a guy, they wouldn't let him in the liquor store for some reason. He had $5. He said, "Hey, buddy, can you go buy me a beer?" So I went in and got him a beer and went out and gave it to him. And so even though I'm personally not into alcohol, I realized that people need to do it in a safe way, like detox and just quitting alcohol, like cold turkey, as they say. Sometimes it could kill people. So
it does,
yeah.
yes. Yeah, and so with that, yeah, I think that there's a difficulty in acquiring legislation that would support the idea of decriminalizing drugs, especially in the U.S. And then on that topic, speaking of legislation, did you hear about the recent Roe versus Wade rulings in the U.S.? What were your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, absolutely terrible. I'm definitely I know a lot of people, they consider themselves to be pro-life, but I look at it like pro-control, anti-choice. And so the way I look at it, I'm a vegan because I feel I don't have a right to use someone else's body to keep me alive. So that's what when you're against abortion, you're forcing someone to use their body to keep someone else alive, And so I don't feel we have a right to do that. Like a pregnant person, we don't have no right to force them to, say you have to stay pregnant and you have to give birth. We don't have a right to force them to use their body against their will. Yeah.
I would say that's a completely sound argument for pro-choice. And so, yeah, I've seen a lot of your content reflecting pro-choice point of views, and I wanted to know. I didn't know if you had already addressed the Roe versus Wade rulings or not. I hadn't seen that.
No, I have two or three videos in support of abortions, but But no, I haven't addressed the Roe versus Wade overturning that in particular. Maybe, yeah, maybe I should do that. And also, I want to say in 2013, I got a vasectomy. So, that's an action. If you are really against, abortions, then hey, go get a vasectomy. And then, you're not going to be in a position of putting, going to put someone in the position of having to decide whether or not they want an abortion.
I think I recall just recently hearing you talk about that. I think I watched one of your live stream recordings and you were talking about that vasectomy. Okay. And so, okay, you spoke about the pro-choice movement. So probably the main topic at hand is veganism and the activism, right? So as an intro to that, what would you say are the most important aspects of veganism in 2022 today, as opposed to when you initially started, like with the growth of the movement and the growth of knowledge and growth of plant-based foods and whatnot? What do you think is most important to share with people?
Yeah, thank you for asking. First, I'll just say really quick, I went vegan in 1998. So I've been vegan for 25 years now. And I went vegan after reading a book called Old MacDonald's Factory Farm. And then I learned about how the animals are treated and how they're used. And then I learned that humans are not obligate carnivores. We don't need to eat animals or their secretions. And we have no rights to use animals without their consent. We can't talk with them and say, hey, can I steal your eggs? Can I steal your milk? Can I slit your throat and eat you? So we can't talk with them and get consent. So just don't do it. And so I'm really thrilled by how much the movement has grown in 25 years. And I was optimistic a long time ago because I thought, hey, if every vegan could get at least one person to go vegan every year, then veganism would grow exponentially and we'd have a vegan world by like 2020. Yeah, and it still hasn't happened. And it's unfortunately, I think it seems to me that a lot of vegans are just quiet vegans and they look at it like, oh, I don't want to be looked at as being a weirdo, and they're just quiet about it. But I embrace being a weirdo. I'm fine with anyone thinking I'm a weirdo.
Right.
Yeah. And so I think the biggest thing could help our movement is people, if they could get more brave to just spread the word and let them know. Because no one can fault you for your own personal choices. If you talk about how, hey, I went vegan and I feel good, I'm really healthy, and I love everything I eat. So yeah, I wish people would realize, like, some say veganism is the moral baseline, but I think activism is the moral baseline. Like, it's not enough, in my opinion, to just be vegan. You've got to spread the word and help empower other people with information. It's like you don't look at it like we're telling people what to do. We're just telling people the truth. Like, they deserve to be empowered with information. We need to let them know that humans don't need to eat animals. And one big thing I see changing the world for the better is cultured meat. Like, there are companies working on growing meat in a lab that involves no animal cruelty. So you could eat. It would be the same as flesh from animals, but there's no animal involved. It's they use cells, and they just reproduce them in a lab. So lab-grown meat. Even though I personally, I don't know if I'd want to try it, but I'm really grateful that it's coming along for the people who, do want to eat that.
I hadn't heard of that. So it's similar to like a stem cell sort of research.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I have to learn more about it too, but there's different companies. I think one's called Memphis Meats. Yeah, okay. Memphis Meats. So if you Google that, yeah. And it's the prices, from when I read it, the price is high right now, but the price will come down as they work on developing it. Yeah.
And so, okay, and so I heard you say that you've heard veganism is the moral baseline, but you actually think it goes beyond that. Well, what are your thoughts on the opposition? What are your thoughts on people that are non-vegan or people who respectfully refuse to convert, or even like vegetarians? Do you think that it's possible for them to be moral, or is there a contradiction within their morality in particular?
Yeah, I am around them all the time. Even though I went vegan in 1998, everyone in my family, I have brothers and sisters and parents, and they all still eat animals in their secretions. So, and it's been 25 years. So I love everyone. I know everyone's doing their best, and I don't know. It just sometimes it takes some people a really long time to come around, I guess. So I don't judge anyone. I love everyone. One of my dear friends, Diane Gandy Sorby, I made a lot of videos with her. Like my one song, "Don't Insult," that got a lot of views. And she unfortunately passed away a couple years ago. But she told me her story that she originally went online. She was trying to find like the happy meat. She was trying to find the ethical butchers and all that. So she was looking for that, how to consume flesh from animals in an ethical way. And she just did more and more research, and she realized this is all bullshit. There is no humane way to end the life of someone who doesn't want to die. And so, yeah, I wish all the people who aren't vegan yet, they would just do more research. And yeah, there's the period of adjustment, but it's a really simple thing. Like say you want you're used to putting cow's milk on your cereal. Well, you just there's so many different plant-based alternatives like almond milk, soy milk, oat milk, coconut milk, and then it seems to me that the non-dairy sections in the grocery stores are expanding a lot. And I think, maybe the dairy industry is going to be the first one to go down, because people are falling in love with it. Like there's vegan ice cream, vegan mayo, vegan cheese, and yeah.
So you think that the conversion process is more of a gradual thing, realistically, than just telling people, to just instantly make the switch? You think that that's a more realistic approach would be to start introducing substitutions into your life, and then maybe they eventually would realize it's easier than they thought and it's better?
Yeah. I've heard some people, they say, they'll say no baby steps, just go vegan immediately. But some say that there's research that says that you're more likely to stick with veganism if you do go about it a little more gradually. Yeah, and I suggest just exploring. Like I remember one time before I was vegan, someone gave me some tofu to try, and it was just plain cold tofu right out of the package, and I ate it and I spat it out. I didn't like it. Now I eat tofu all the time because, that's some people like tofu just straight from the package like that, but it's like something like flesh from chicken. If you were to just take flesh from chicken, so just boil it and not put any sauce or spices or anything on it, they wouldn't like that. So it's the fact that often how it's been cooked and how it's been flavored and all of that you find appealing.
And so one thing that I forgot to expand upon was what are your thoughts on vegetarians? Are they just, can they not properly exhibit morality because they're just that one step away from veganism?
Sorry. Yeah, I remember that part of your question. Yeah. I know of several vegans, and they said, I was vegetarian for years first, and I wish I'd just gone vegan right away because I just didn't make the connection with the dairy industry.
Mm-hmm.
And but I've done something. There's a group called the Save Movement, and what they do is they go to slaughterhouses and they watch the animals on the trucks going to the slaughterhouse. And so I've done that many times, and I've seen a truck full of spent dairy cows. They're all bony and worn out, and they've been exploited for cow's milk for years, and now it's time to just get their throat slit for some cheap meat. And to realize that I wish the vegetarians would realize that cows, they need to, like other mammals, they need to be impregnated in order to give milk. And so the babies are taken away and they go to the veal farms, so the babies get killed, and then the mothers, they get exploited and then killed when they're used up. So yeah, and then with eggs, there's lots of cruelty in the egg industry. Like for instance, male chicks born into the egg industry that can't lay eggs, and they're the wrong breed to be considered profitable for meat, so they're just killed right away. Imagine being born into this world and you're just murdered right away. So yeah, all the animals used for eggs and dairy are exploited and killed soon.
And so yeah, that would be your reasoning for just asking vegetarians to just make that extra step, because the dairy industry is still involved in the same amount of exploitation as
definitely.
Regular
and I know some
slaughter.
people, they say, oh, I get eggs from my neighbor who has chickens in the backyard, and I just explained to them that we don't need to eat eggs. They're cholesterol bombs. They're not good for us. And also by eating eggs, you're helping to normalize eating eggs, and a lot of people don't have access to eggs like that. And so it's better, I think, to put the message that we don't need to eat eggs. We can thrive without them. And also the eggs belong to the chickens. So like one time I visited a friend in Chicago, and she had a rescued chicken who laid an egg. And what we did, we read about feeding the eggs back to the chickens so they can replenish their calcium and such. So we hard-boiled the egg and gave it to her, and she ate the whole egg and the shell and everything. So yeah, that's one thing you can do with eggs, is just give them back to the hens.
I had not heard of that before. Yeah, okay, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So that what you just talked about, the specific processes of spent cows and all that, reminded me of one of your most peculiar videos. I believe it was called the is it the story of milk?
Oh yeah,
The
yeah.
story of how milk is made.
Hmm.
Could you talk about how long that took and exactly your frame of mind for that? Because it's quite a bizarre video. It really is.
Yeah, I think there's one part where I spat and the spit landed on the
Yes,
camera. I thought that was kind of dramatic and cool and shocking.
that's right. Yeah, I think you did it twice. You did it twice.
Oh, twice. Okay,
The
yeah,
first time
yeah.
you kind of missed the lens. The second time you got it dead on. It was phenomenal.
That was
Yes.
total luck. It was a lucky day of filming. Yeah. And so I had this cow costume,
Yes.
and I think that was actually maybe the first song that I ever made animal rights related. I See, it's hard to remember exactly because unfortunately I had a YouTube channel in 20 up until 2011. I think I started my first YouTube channel in 2010, and then YouTube took down a few videos, and they just terminated the whole account, so it was all wiped out. So I had to start all over again in 2011. So now I can't completely remember what was the first song I made, but yeah, that one about the cows. I just wanted to put myself in the mindset of a mother cow and try to think of how I'd be feeling about over and over again my babies being taken away from me, and how sad that would make me. Yeah, and I filmed it at a park in Niagara Falls, and yeah. So I don't know if I answered your questions about that. Or if there are
You
any
did.
other
It
questions.
was a very interesting. I think I've watched that one probably the most. It's about just 5 minutes of continual, just surprising content right there, and
Okay, good.
yeah. So yeah, the meaning of that video is obviously just yeah how it would feel in their perspective of being used up, dried up, and having their children being taken to the VO farm, right?
Yeah. And I think on guitar, it's like I play the same note over and over again, but that kind of just represents like the monotony of just like over and over again, the same day, the same
Yeah.
tragedy, and like no escape from all of this hell. Yeah.
And then, so with the amount of videos and songs you have, which was genuinely shocking, man. You've been incredibly active since 2011. I didn't even know there was a prior channel. So
Yeah.
you've been dead active for over a decade now on YouTube, right?
Yeah. And I think there was a period of time where I was making a lot of like, I think the comedy ones, I'll oftentimes are the ones that get a lot of the views. And so,
Yeah.
they, what helped to get a big boost to my of traffic to my channel, where there were some YouTubers who are have like millions of subscribers, and they would do reaction videos. They would be reacting to some of my videos, and then so I did go through a phase where my channel was pretty popular, and it's not so much. I still people check out my videos, but I'm not quite as popular as I used to be. I don't think, but
Hmm.
I still do it because I just genuinely love being creative.
I can tell, yeah, with the amount you create constantly, I can tell you definitely love what you do, and I really respect that.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, it's wonderful. Like I think that's like when the three things can come together for you. I think it's a wonderful life where there's something that you love to do, and that you maybe have some skill at it, and people will check it out, and it's something that you can use to make the world a better place. Yeah,
Mm.
so I feel really lucky about that. And also, I also do paintings. I don't know if you've seen any of my paintings. I
I
should make a
have the
video where
acrylics,
I show,
yes.
yeah, where I show a bunch of paintings. Like I have one right beside me. I could just show you. There's a whole series I watched on Netflix called Black Mirror.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I love it. And there's my favorite episode is San Junipero, and so I did a painting with the two main characters from San Junipero episode of Black Mirror.
this is
And
really good, man.
oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I recommend that channel, Black Mirror. And so yeah, technology can be used for good or bad. I like to try and use it for good. I hope I'm doing some good. And if there have been
Hmm.
times where I made a video and I realized later I made a mistake, and I'll take it down from my YouTube channel. So
Mm.
yeah, like you know how like I'll watch movies from the 80s and realize, oh wow, you know, that was a terrible thing they said, but like we're works in progress, and we learn better and we do better. Yeah. So yeah, I do lots of paintings for people too, but yeah, I still have lots of fun writing songs and making videos and
Yeah, most of your content seems like it is all songs. So how often does it usually take you to produce and record and write and edit a full video? Usually they're very brief, but I understand a lot of time should go into it.
yeah, it very varies very much. Some of them are pretty quick. Some of them take a long lot longer.
Hmm.
Um, it's quite a lot of work to make a music video. Like first, like write all the lyrics and record all the instruments, and then
Right.
then I like record all the audio, and then do the lip syncing generally afterwards, and then add the subtitles. But then some of them are done live, like the one you talked about where I was wearing the cow costume. Yeah, that wasn't lip syncing. That was like a live performance. So I should do more of that too. That's fun. But it can vary. Like sometimes I can finish a whole music video in one day, or sometimes it might take a week or something like that.
That is quite the dedication.
Thank you. One recent video that was pretty intense, like with my face, is I don't know if you saw it. I made one with the alphabet where I painted
you painted
every
your
single
face
letter of the alphabet.
Right.
That was because sometimes I get in the zone and I just get focused and I just want to get it done, and so I painted and then washed it off and then painted again like 20 times. I didn't have to do it every single time because some letters it worked out well. Like the best combination was C, O, and Q. For C, I made the C, and then I just had to add in a little line to make it into an O, then add another little line, and then it becomes a Q. Or like with P and R, I made the P, then I just had to add a little line to make the R. But yeah, some that was by the end of the shoot, just washing my face and painting it over and over and over again. Like my skin was getting kind of red, and my eyes were kind of red. So, but yeah, sometimes art involves yeah.
And how long did that video take you?
Oh, let's see. I think just a day to paint and wash my face over and over and over again and film it all. And then I think another day of editing and before that there was making the song. So the whole project maybe a few days. Yeah.
A couple days. But that's like straight working for 3 days though. That's not really spread out across a week. That's all like you get in the zone and then it's just straight work. Interesting. Okay. And so following that, with as huge as your videography is on YouTube, do you have one that you actually claim is your favorite based on anything?
Yeah, I would say for sure Don't Insult, because Dan and Diane are both passed away now.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen Don't Insult, right? Probably.
I have seen so many videos. I remember many titles, but I'm not 100% certain.
Okay, yeah, it's one where I'm rapping in the background and there's my friends Dan and Diane sitting in the front. But probably don't insult, because it's about not using the names of animals as insults for anyone. Like, you know how people will call someone a chicken or a pig or something like that. So yeah, speciesism is so ingrained in our society that people think of nothing when they call someone a chicken or a pig. They don't even think of they're using the name of an animal as an insult. And even though that pigs and chickens, they may not know that we're using their name as insults, but in our fellow humans, it's degrading and it lowers people's idea of their animals. It's like lowers them in your head. You think of them as being lesser beings, and it's okay to use them. Yeah, it helps perpetuate speciesism. So, and then, yeah, I try to never use speciesist language or like call someone a rat or something like that. Yeah.
So involving that, I can tell that there's a lot of your specific ideology seems to be about major equality for humans and animals and treating animals as equals and not something to exploit. And so with that, I had a rather complicated question regarding basically ethics. So, for example, the technology we use is often fueled by really unethical labor, sometimes child labor in distant countries, and there are countless items, including our clothing, that can cause suffering for millions elsewhere in a poor location. And so I wanted to see, based on those like socioeconomic factors, where do you... I understand that veganism, it aims to eliminate the suffering of animals and eliminate the exploitation of animals, but what about the use of daily products that are still basically derived from human suffering? Where do you stand on that, and how do you address that concern?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. In the early days of my YouTube channel, I would focus more on veganism and animal rights, but then as I got more and more involved in social justice issues, learning more about human rights issues, then I allowed my more recent songs are about human rights issues. And I am aware of a lot of the cruelty involved in our society and all the products that we make. I I read a book called The Story of Stuff, and I watch videos, and I recommend that. And every single thing with it in our world has a story behind it. And so you try to do the best you can. Like for clothing, I try to buy used clothing, or I've been to clothing swaps where people have a party and like everyone will bring some clothing and we all just try on different stuff and because buy used whenever I can. And with a lot of the technology, I have a laptop, and I know that stuff to build it was acquired through oppressive practices, and so I try to use it for good and share it. I help a lot of other people make videos when I go traveling, and take care of it, make it last as long as I can. But I speak out against capitalism a lot because people don't realize, they'll say, oh, without capitalism we wouldn't have laptops and cameras and everything. But I try to explain that stuff can be made under any system. The system just determines who gets paid. And so, like under capitalism, it's about having billionaires and the rest of the people being oppressed. So I think we could have more equity and more sharing. And also, because of capitalism, there's planned obsolescence, and stuff is made not to be the best it can be and to last a long time. It's made to break after a period of time. So you have to buy another one and replace it. So I think speaking out against the system is a really important part of ending oppression against all beings.
Okay, so your attribution for helping to spread the word and end this like oppression would be to speak out against capitalism, essentially, is your main form?
Yeah, speak out against that, and just talk about the alternatives. Like people say, well, okay, if not capitalism, then what can we have? But we are headed in that direction. Like I've heard of more and more cities having things like tool libraries, because a lot of the stuff we don't need to own, we just need to access to it. So even with musical instruments, I'd be happy if tool libraries were very, very common, and anytime I wanted to record a song, I could even donate guitars to the tool library, and then when I need them, I just go and borrow them, and when I'm not using them, other people would borrow them. So a lot more sharing, tool libraries and free stores. I wish we had free stores where people could just drop off stuff that they don't need anymore, and other people could come and get it. And for other things like for food, I just went today to a place with my stepfather to small scale farms in Niagara Falls, where it's on Saturdays it's pay what you can. So you get a whole bag of food and you just make a donation, pay what you can pay. And so lots of good things are happening to steer us away from capitalism. Yeah.
Okay, and then I've heard you talk about capitalism particularly a lot more recently as I've been. This meeting now has a limit. Okay, I had to upgrade my Zoom thing really quick to make sure we could keep talking. It was
sure.
I had to deviate a little bit there. Sorry about that. Okay. So I've heard you talk a lot about capitalism, especially recently as I've been listening to more of your like talking points in preparation for speaking to you. And so you said shareocracy, right? That was what you wanted to have established, essentially. So the question I had philosophically is like, how does your perceived essentially your utopia, how does that look for you?
Thank you for asking. Thanks for all your wonderful questions. Yeah. So when I talk about a shareocracy, every time we share, we help to create a culture of sharing. And so we have enough resources to meet the needs of everyone on Earth, I think. And so we just need to share all of them. What my world looks like in the future, lots of big changes. For instance, I love the grow food, not lawns movement. And so lawns are totally waste of resources. Like, so I'm in favor of rewilding the planet. And so for lawns, you could like let your lawn rewild, or have gardens and grow. There are some neighborhoods where all the neighbors each grow a different crop and they get together and share all of the food.
Okay.
And so that's a big change. And also, I'm not a fan of cars at all. So I wish we had awesome public transportation. And I've read, and it makes sense to me, that the cars are just a failed social experiment. And yeah, it stresses people out. So, and it's very, very bad for the planet, and cars kill. So I would love to see the end of like the personal automobile, and we could all get around with like fantastic public transportation and walking and cycling and wheelchairs and things like that. So, and also with housing, um, I've read that as far as with climate change, the best way to help keep people cool is to have them more condensed, like not have big urban sprawl, and to build up. So big like uh, apartment buildings
Hmm.
and like tall buildings, they provide us with lots of shade, and people aren't all spread out, so that we wouldn't need so many like cars, and people just could get by with public transportation. And maybe in the future we could have there's been some talk of fully automated greenhouse towers that could produce so much food that everyone could just have free food. And what really got me thinking a lot about a moneyless world is there's something called the Venus Project. So I recommend everyone check out the Venus Project. And they talk about yeah, ending capitalism, having a shareocracy, having a moneyless world. And so yeah, so many terrible things are being done just for money. And money, you know, you can't eat it, you can't drink it. And it seems to me that capitalism is going to kill us all and destroy the whole planet if we don't end it.
On the topic of your utopia involving no money, I do have some questions regarding logistics, especially involving, um, well, essentially what we would consider to be luxuries or items here. So I feel that you, this might be a little bit presumptuous, but you have a lot of, you apply a lot of value to being able to spread your message and being able to create videos and share that with the world, right? In a world without money, in a society without that, it would be very difficult to have things like computers and uh, just being able to maintain similar video and online presence habits. Uh, do you, so in your perfect world, would the pursuit for your happiness still be to spread your message, or would your message already be out and you'd be just living comfortably, I assume farming or something like that?
Yeah, I've thought about that too. Where, you know, if we had the perfect world, the non-oppressive utopia, and we lived communally, and I were in a vegan commune and having, you know, instead of like making a video, we could have fun together, or just have a little stage there, and we could all have like, you know, perform together. And
Mm.
I love jamming with other musicians, and you know, the idea of just making songs just for fun, like with Alphabet Song, you know, that doesn't really have an activism message, but I love just making art just for the sake of making art to
Yeah.
make entertain people. It doesn't all have to be activism related. Um, but I know, like, as far as ending the monetary system, it's not going to happen overnight. Like, I've read that strong communities make cops, prisons, money, and capitalism obsolete. So community building is how we transform the world, and we need to have a lot of that. And so, yeah, I can't see us realistically just jumping to a moneyless world. We do need to do lots of community building. And also, I think as a stepping stone between the world we have now and a moneyless world, it might be necessary to have a universal basic income. And
Mm,
so,
okay.
have you heard of about a UBI?
I have. I've heard a little bit of what was his name? He was a political candidate.
Yeah, he was running for president.
Right.
I'm not remembering his name right now.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I know his name. We're referring to the same person, I
Andrew
believe.
Yang.
Andrew Yang. Yeah. Yeah, I heard a little bit about his idea for UBI, and I do think it is an interesting notion.
Yeah, so with the UBI, we could have a lot more time for community building. And I think there might be a lot of people, because they're so overworked under capitalism, that, you know, for the first while under a UBI, they might want to just like sleep in a lot and like play video games and rest. But I think eventually they're going to want to do things and like, you know, I work at community gardens or
Mm.
something like that. Hmm.
So you have a much more optimistic view of what people would do under a universal basic income, as opposed to the criticism that has been applied to it.
Yeah, but even if some people don't want to do anything, I think that would be better than working at environmentally destructive, unnecessary, cruel jobs. Yeah.
So you think
But
their
yeah,
lack of contribution is healthier for overall society than them contributing in a sense that also damages the environment? Is that what you
yeah,
said? Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. So universal basic income. So yeah, your ideal world would be everybody's already within the message, and you get to kind of just live in a happy community. And even though there might not be specific luxuries that we have now in a very technologically advanced place, you would still be
Yeah.
set.
And I think that's like I said, I think that without money, we would have better technology, better computers, and things like that, because we wouldn't have planned obsolescence anymore. So you could just make things to be the best, and there wouldn't be competing companies. Like say with computers, there wouldn't be. Everybody would share all of the information. So, and make better things together instead of competition all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My question for that is, where does incentive come from to do the resource gathering required to make technology when there is no money? So
Yeah.
my belief personally is that if there was no universal system for, any form of monetary gain for people, there's going to be only a necessity and incentive to do very basic, almost intrinsic levels of survival in goods such as that, such as farming and building homes. So it almost sounds like a massive technological retract rather than a mode of innovation, because I feel that there's no incentive to really make all these extra things, especially when
Okay.
there's no money being given to people for them. And so I don't understand precisely where the incentive would come from for them
Right.
to do such a thing.
Well, I like speaking for myself. I get a big thrill out of being creative, and so on my YouTube channel, I make very little money, hardly any money off YouTube, and
Mm-hmm.
so I have pretty much mostly built up my whole YouTube channel for basically for free, and so I feel like if I get all this pleasure from creating for free, I bet you there are many other people like that too, and even if they're not artists or like if they're not doing paintings or making music, they're inventors, innovators, and like people who enjoy uh, programming, building all of these things, like building computers. I would think in a world where they had all their needs met, they would just do it for the love of it, and
Right.
to know that they are helping people.
But my question was more aimed at the people that would
Sorry.
gather resources
Oh
to
yeah,
build
gather
these things.
resources. Okay, so yeah, say right now, like because I don't look at money as being like a real necessary thing. I
Mm-hmm.
look at all the cashiers, for instance. Working 40 hours a week, being a cashier, collecting money. Um, I would think if you could say to these people, hey, instead of what if you could have your same standard of living or even better, but instead of working 40 hours a week being a cashier, you only had to work 4 hours a week at a community garden or something like that. Or even if it was an unpleasant job, like you had to help clean up the outhouses or something like that, I would think a lot of people would rather do that for 4 hours a week than work at 40 hours a week, standing in the same place, collecting money all the time. So I
And
think that
I'm sorry, I
so,
didn't mean
so
to.
just one more point. I think we're in denial about how many jobs in our society are unnecessary. So I think if we eliminated all the unnecessary jobs, like jobs in marketing and cashier and banking and all of that, and if we eliminate all the unnecessary jobs, and then we just worked at the necessary jobs, and we did split up the work, and so we could get by. I really don't think that we need to be working for 40 hours a week anymore. I think we could have more, if we had a shareocracy and all of that, we could have more and work less.
Another big logistical question is about governance. How does a world even go about running a shareocracy when who is to enforce if somebody is not providing their share, and who's to decide where you can go, who forms the organizations that you can go to, and obviously there's still going to be a hierarchy no matter what. How is it ensured that the tops of the hierarchy aren't still above in terms of just what they have?
Yeah, yeah. Even in a moneyless, uh, post-capitalist world, if we still have a hierarchy and then power corrupts, and then people use their power to do bad in some way so they can have more than someone else. Yeah, how do
Mm-hmm.
we have that not happen? I don't know. I certainly don't have all the answers. I just think that I'm sure many people agree that what we have right now isn't working to get the needs met of the people. So we can all question everything and figure out together how to make a world where everyone's needs are met. So yeah, I don't know how to prevent. I know that under capitalism, like people, like my father, he says capitalism the problem isn't the problem, greed is the problem. But then I say to him, if greed is the problem, then how do we get rid of greed under a system that rewards greed? That makes no sense. So because capitalism rewards greed at every turn. Like you can literally get money. It's called interest. If you just hold on to money and don't share it and just hoard it all, then you can get paid just for being greedy. So,
Right. I almost think that greed is a very intrinsic thing, and it's going to be a human proclivity to want to rise to the top of something, because that is essentially in our evolutionary biology, to want to like at least some of us want to conquer and to be at the top of something. And so I think that no matter what governmental system or anything, there will always be those who wish to lead others, and there will always be those who allow their power to corrupt them in some sense. And I think that is an unfortunate hurdle that can't really be jumped over. So the question isn't really whether people will be greedy. I feel that we will find a way, no matter what, to somehow somebody's going to be having more than others, and it's kind of an inexorable result.
Yeah, I try to be optimistic that maybe some of the greedy people, maybe if they were showered with love every day in vegan communes, they could learn to do better, and they would stop being so greedy. Like billionaires, I have a hard time thinking that they're all super happy every day. Yeah, I would bet being a billionaire would feel very lonely in many ways. Like for instance, I heard some quotes from Elon Musk. He was like shitting on public transportation, saying, if you ride the train or something, you have to stand around a whole bunch of strangers, and one of them might be a serial killer and that sort of thing. So how detached are you from your fellow beings, when you're even afraid to be near them? So I feel bad for people like that who feel afraid of everyone. Like for me, before the pandemic, I couch surfed full time for 6 years, and I didn't have to pay rent, or it was between 5 and 6 years. Yeah, over 5 years. I didn't pay rent anywhere. I was just couch surfing full time. And so I lived off the kindness of others. And I tried to help out a lot wherever I was. And my friend and I, 2 years in a row, we hitchhiked across the continent. We hitchhiked from home in Niagara area all the way to California and back. And so we got picked up by people, and they were all super kind to us. So all they experienced for 5 years was people being kind and sharing. And like with hitchhiking, they don't know who we were. They didn't know who we were. So they were risking their lives to help people in need, because we could have been killers for all they know. But they saw people in need and they picked us up. So I think that if people are willing to risk their life to pick up a hitchhiker, then they'd be happy to do work at community gardens and making clothing and computers and anything else like that.
So your foundation for these ideas is definitely the anecdotal experience. There's more optimism in human behavior from what you've seen.
Oh yeah. For years and years of couch surfing, all I saw was all the best of humanity, just by sharing with me and spoiling me and trusting us. Like, with my friend Amanda, who I hitchhiked with, one time there's a man and his daughter who picked us up, and it was in California, and they drove to, we're gonna go to grandma's house, but then we'll drop you off and you can hang out with grandma. Then we got to go out somewhere. So they just drove to their grandmother's house, and Amanda and I were sitting in the living room talking with the grandma, and then they left. So they left us alone. And so it's awesome to trust, and yeah, everyone was just super nice. So yeah, a lot of anecdotal stuff. I don't know if that's a bad thing. I know we need like actual scientific studies to show these things, but I guess I think we all speak from a place of our circumstances and our life experiences.
Absolutely, yes. And yeah, your perspective would vary greatly from mine, because I've grown up in a very particularly rude environment filled with people who are not courteous even in the slightest. So it's a very interesting perspective difference. But you also grew up thousands of miles away, I assume, or at least 1,000 miles away from me. I'm very low on the side of the U.S., and things are very different.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, deviating slightly from, because those are some fairly prolific and intense topics, I wanted to kind of calm the conversation down a little bit and talk about some more of your particular videos. There was one that I thought also peculiar was, what was the entire story behind the doo-doo residue guy song, if you even recall, because I know you have so many songs.
Yeah, now I remember. Yeah, there was a friend, a photographer, who has an awesome website called We Animals, and so she goes into hellish places where animals are being exploited and takes pictures. So yeah, Joanne told a story about how she was walking her dog friend around the neighborhood, and the dog shat on someone's lawn. So Joanne had the little bag and picked up the feces, but then the guy got angry and he said, "There's still residue." So I thought that was so strange and kind of funny that she told me that story years ago, and I still remembered it. And then I wrote a song, and then I sent it to her, and she thought it was funny. So yeah.
The idea that you could take such a, even just, that's not even your personal experience, that's your friend's story, that you can take that and turn that into a full length song all about one dude's weird action from several years back. I find that interesting.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a song. There's a song in like everything. Everything could be a song, but yeah, you don't want, I guess, to try to find topics that are more interesting. But I just thought that was interesting how, sometimes people would just find something to be pissed off about. Like, right. That's the most ridiculous thing to be pissed off about that I can imagine. And some conservative people, they call us the snowflakes. But who's the snowflake when you're being pissed off about there being some residue from dog feces on your grass?
It is a pretty weak-minded thing to do. I will admit that. Yes. And another very strange video, or at least one that I found strange, was I don't remember the exact song title. Was it I Was With a Woman Last Night? Was that the title of it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Was that based on a real event, or were you just going deep into the hollows of your mind? And
yeah, kind of an interesting story behind that one. There was a friend, and online we were, I've never met this person in real life, but on the internet through Facebook we were chatting, and like, I guess you could call it like sexting. Mm-hmm. Like, so yeah, it was like a sexual conversation, just for fun, something to do.
Sure.
And then we were describing back and forth how, like, having sex with each other, and then she kept writing about sucking on my penis. And so for quite a while, like for several minutes, talking about doing that. And then I was thinking, okay, maybe you want to move on to something else, but then she was still writing about doing that.
She wouldn't exit the topic. She just couldn't stop.
Yeah, and so I thought, wow, that was cool. Even though it didn't really happen in real life, that's a funny idea for a song. Uh-huh. And yeah, so that's where that came from a sexting session.
I was genuinely wondering if that was like a real issue you had, like somebody just wouldn't get off of you, or if, yeah.
No. Now maybe even more so, not now, but like, I don't know. I've heard that, like, once you get, now I'm 52, and that once you get over 50, you become like sexually invisible. So who knows? Maybe I'm sexually invisible now, but at least I have lots of nice memories. But maybe two sexually invisible people could meet each other.
There's always hope. There's always hope.
Yes.
And on the topic of sexual undertone, there's a ton of that in your videos. One that caught me super, super off guard. I was on the bus commuting back home, and I stumbled upon the very interesting title of Vegan Vagina Juice, and I wanted to hear what was going through your mind. And you had a little excerpt in the beginning talking about how you took it down initially because there was apparently cannibalistic undertones. So what made you want to like lick a papaya in a sexual sense and then upload that?
Yeah, well, the whole idea for Vegan Vagina Juice, the way it came about is I saw a sticker that said vegans taste better. Yeah, so I saw that, and then I thought, hey, well, I'm a a heterosexual man, so I'm attracted to, like, I very much don't want to be transphobic and all of that, but I've read that it's okay to have genital preference, that's not transphobic to have genital preference. So I prefer, like, if I was to lick someone, I would prefer someone who has a vagina. So I've never, I'm not gay, and I've never had a desire to lick a penis. So anyway, that's why vegan vagina juice in particular. So I focused on that. And then I thought, fruit, when you cut open, like when I cut the papaya in half, it even in the middle, it has that shape that could even look like a vulva, kind of.
Right. Yeah, it
And
definitely
so,
resembles.
yeah, so that I thought, and I had been making videos in the bathtub for a while. It felt like a really intimate thing, like inviting someone into the bathtub with you. And so I thought, hey, that's perfect. I'll just lick this papaya in the bathtub and talk about licking a woman. And I thought it was a funny idea. And then I used to have long hair, because I used to play drums in bands, and it was like the hair metal in the 80s and that sort of thing. So I used to have long hair. So I have a receded hairline now, and but sometimes I would put on wigs and kind of try to look like a rock star. And so yeah, I put on that long wig and licked the papaya in the bathtub. And then, I don't know, after several minutes of licking a papaya, it's just so delicious, I started to get hungry and just started eating the papaya. And then someone commented and they said, John, you had just been singing for several minutes about licking a woman. Now all of a sudden you're and licking the papaya as if that's a woman. Then you started eating the papaya. And they said, yeah, that has cannibalistic undertones. And then I thought, shit, I never thought of that. And like, I'm certainly not, a cannibal. And then, I don't know, I took down the video, but then people said, John, that's ridiculous. We know you're not a cannibal. So anyway, I put it back up. But sometimes it would get frustrating to me too, because like the sexual ones get so much attention. Then when I make a serious, nice video about a different issue, like I'm ranting against capitalism, it wouldn't get nearly as many views. So it kind of frustrates me sometimes that the sexual ones get so much more attention. Yeah, but I like to try and make people laugh and smile. And I hope that I'm planting vegan seeds at the same time. Like, who knows, maybe there's a woman out there who might be thinking, wow, maybe I would be more delicious or something if I went vegan. But I was on a TV show once called Tosh.0. Have you heard of this show?
You got featured on Tosh.0.
Yeah, it's on the internet. I can send you a link. It's I think I'm still the only vegan they ever had on the show. So they flew me down there all the way from Canada. Pardon?
That is certainly an accomplishment, man. I did not know that.
Yeah, it was several years ago now, but it was a lot of fun being on that show. So Daniel Tosh, it was like a celebrity profile where they featured someone who had a video that went viral. So it was the Don't Insult video against speciesism. So when Daniel Tosh was interviewing me, he said, is it true that vegans taste better? And I said, I've never done a taste test, like back and forth as a comparison. But I said, so I don't know if they really taste better. It's just that there's more of a connection for me because you're with someone who like has the same values and is trying to live their values like you are. So it's more of a mental connection.
So yeah, one day you just decided, like, for specifically the vegan vagina abuse video, it was just like a matter of like, I wanted to make something funny, but also plant like some veganism seeds in there, and that was the whole premise of it. So it was just purely like a comedy thing.
Yeah, comedy, but then with a message behind it too. And also, I guess it was a bit of fun for me because like living vicariously and like engaging in a lovely fantasy world. Like I mentioned in the song about, like having someone sit on my face. And I do think that's a sexy thought. So maybe that'll happen and sometime. Anyway.
Manifest, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, you might like that. The Daniel Tosh episode where I'm on. It was really fun. And yeah.
Yeah, send me the link to that if you can.
Okay, I will.
Definitely. Okay, so we asked about, got that and that. This was just a side note. I'm a chess player, and I saw you had a video called "I Suck at Chess." Are you still trying to play chess, or do you still suck at chess? What was the deal? Was that just like a little one of those things? You're like, I need to make a video. What's going on? oh, I'm not good at chess. And was that the whole thing behind it, or do you still try to play? Or
Oh yeah, once in a while. I did go through a phase because there was a Netflix series that was really, really popular.
Queen's
The
Gambit?
Gambit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I had tried to play chess before that, but then when that series came out, I my brother he went and got a chessboard, and we were playing several times, and yeah, it was fun. We were both not very good, but then I started to try online with online chess. I was playing people, and yeah, it was fun, but I wasn't really getting any better, and I wasn't figuring much out. So anyway, I thought I'm sure there are many people who can relate to not being good at chess. So I made it into a song. Uh, yeah, I haven't been playing chess online very much lately. Once in a while with a friend, but yeah, I'm just focusing on other things like making music and paintings and
Yeah, so what I was gonna follow with was like, do you have any specific openings that you wanted to, or that you know about, like such as the Van Geet opening, which is I think just the funniest name for an opening, but I assume not based on that answer.
no, I don't know about openings. I would just try different things and hope for the best. Yeah.
All right. There is on the topic of social justice, which we were talking a lot more earlier. There was one that I kind of forgot about. I think of your channel as essentially it's like a almost like an index for almost all social issues. You have something that kind of addresses everything in one sense or
Thank
another.
you.
And I totally forgot that there was a whole period about man spreading, and I wanted to know about that. If
Yeah.
this is still like a prolific issue, or
Maybe I solved the issue and it's not an issue anymore. I'm kidding.
I've
But
definitely never seen it. So
well, I'm on Facebook a lot and I'm pretty active there, and I got a lot of ideas for songs from memes. I think memes are awesome and they're changing the world for the better. When you get an idea across in just a little picture and a few words.
mm,
And so I think it was from a meme about man spreading that I saw. And so yeah, and I thought that was a fun idea for a song because at the time too, I was spending a lot of time in Toronto, so I was riding buses in the subway a lot, and I would see it sometimes. I would see a guy with his legs far apart and be wondering, well, why are you just sitting like that? You're like sitting like your balls are the size of a watermelon or something like that. You could put your legs closer together. So yeah, and it's about more than just man spreading, really. When you think about it, it's more about not dominating spaces, because I spent a lot of time with feminist women and they would draw it to my attention. Like we'd realize, like at a party or something, where you see like there's a man who's really dominating the conversation or dominating the space. So yeah, it's about more than just not spreading your legs. It's about not dominating a space and just being respectful of other people in the area. Like one time I was in California and a friend invited us to some hot springs, and I'd never been like in hot springs before. So it sounded lots of fun, but then some other friends went down there and they said there was already so many people down there. And I thought, well, if there's already crowded, you don't want me, another man down there taking up more space. So I didn't end up going in the hot springs, because I try to keep that in mind about thinking about other people all the time and not wanting to dominate a space and wanting to give people their space.
interesting. So yeah, mansplaining is actually just a very small aspect of a grander issue of men dominating space
Yeah.
in your eyes. Okay. Yeah, I was wondering because on the surface, man spreading does seem like a very almost silly concept, but if you think about it at large, it makes more sense on the grander scheme. Um,
Yeah.
and so yeah, so that's so we've covered all sorts of social issues. I mean, I could go on and on about what you've addressed. You really have addressed almost everything I could think of as far as like a left wing point of view on social issues and social injustice. And so then I'd probably ask, what are the plans for 2022? Do you have anything major in the works? I know you said you kind of like spontaneous. You kind of just keep making things that you want in the moment. But do you have any like major projects or anything planned for the end of the year? What's coming out soon? What can I expect?
Yeah, thank you for asking. Well, there's one big project I just started like a few days ago, and I just like challenges. I love using my brain and try to being like a problem solver and that sort of thing. So I don't really consider myself a good bass guitar player, but a recent thing, I plugged in my equipment and all that, and I just like soloed on the bass for 10 minutes straight,
Mm-hmm.
just exploring and playing notes and just randomly seeing what I could come up with. And then I went through. I'll just show you, like, I wrote. I had to go by, like, listen to each note individually. There's 2 pages full of notes. There's like 1,400 notes that I played. So now I'm adding in other instruments on the keyboards and just trying to spice it up and make it sound really kind of fantastic and fun sounding. Just to take, like, that was a challenge. Could you take this random bass thing that a guy who's not even good at bass and play all these notes and try to make it sound really, really fun and cool and hold people's attention? So anyway, but I guess my plans are just to keep on being me and just like, I don't really have any goals or plans. Like, I just know that I know how I am, and I know that, like, all of a sudden something's going to come into my head and I'm just going to, like, I don't want to use, like, the word slavery, like, appropriate that, but I do kind of feel like a slave to my creativity. Like, if I get an idea, it's really hard for me to say no to it. I just got to do it because I'm so curious. What is this going to be like? So I know I'm just going to keep being me, and ideas are just going to keep coming to me, and I'll just go for it. So I don't really have plans. I'm just feel grateful that I enjoy being me. I enjoy my brain. I feel I've gotten lucky in life with my genetics and life experiences so far. And so yeah, just keep on making music and videos and doing paintings for people.
Mm-hmm.
But there is one thing I've been enjoying lately, because I was couch surfing before the pandemic for years, and I missed a lot of spending time with my family. I have a really nice family, and they're all in Niagara Falls. So that's another thing too. I want to spend more time with my family. And my dear friends Dan and Diane, both passing away, helped remind me that, you know, we're still mortal creatures and we're not going to be around forever. So I have parents and they're aging, and I like to spend time with my family.
It's a very wholesome response.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, so you're, as far as like the making projects and things, when you're, are you the type of person that has all sorts of unfinished projects because you keep getting spontaneous ideas and you need to jump from one thing to another? Or are you somebody that you have an idea and then you're not happy until that's finished and then you move on?
Yeah, the former, the first one you mentioned. Yeah, not many. I do have a few other. See, I had a few other videos that I had to get done, but then this whole bass guitar thing came up. So, but not a lot. There's like 4 videos on the go right now. But I do finish everything eventually. It all gets done when the time is right. Like, I'm glad I don't feel like I need to rush things. Like, for instance, I keep mentioning that Don't Insult with Dan and Diane. I made the instrumental about a year before I went to California, and it was just sitting on my laptop, this like an instrumental with no lyrics. Yeah. And then I was with Dan and Diane because it was on Diane's bucket list to make videos with me. So I went to California and stayed with them for a month during my first visit. And then so I thought, okay, I'm with this couple. What could I have them rapping back and forth to each other? And I thought, you know, hey, honey, I'll never call you a chicken. I'll never call you a pig, and that sort of thing. So then I wrote all the lyrics, and then we recorded it all. So it's good to not rush things because, you know, with that instrumental, it was perfect for that song with them. But if I had rushed it, then I wouldn't have had that instrumental. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think as a fellow musician, I have a lot of unfinished projects, but I'm kind of different. I have so many that eventually they do just get lost in time, and that's the unfortunate consequence of constantly making new stuff, at least for me. But yeah, I respect that aspect of controlling your creativity, where you're gonna let something go for a little bit, but then you'll eventually return to it and you finish it up, and then perhaps you accidentally make a magnum opus with something.
Yeah. I'd love to. Is any of your music online for me to hear?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it all is.
Okay, great. I will. Yeah, I'd love to see to listen, and so you could share something with me. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure, man. Absolutely. And so, kind of wrapping everything up. You did. Oh yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Can I say one more thing quick? If you ever want to collaborate too on a song or something, you can let me know.
Absolutely, man. That would be wonderful. I was not
Cool.
expecting that.
Did you ever see? There's a guy named Finn from Australia, and he made a video called "John Sakars is a Musical Genius," I think it's called. And he interviewed me like you did,
Uh-huh.
but then he's a musician too. So he said, "Hey, do you want to?" I actually said to him at the end of our interview, "If you ever want to collaborate," and he said, "Oh, that'd be great." So then we made a song together. So yeah, it's really fun. So I love collaborating with people. So yeah, thank you for being open to that.
I'll be in contact about that. Yeah, definitely, man. Um, so yeah, I was going to mention. I think my favorite personal aspect of your music is your drumming, man. You shred. You shred on drums. Was that your like main instrument?
Yeah, yeah. I started drumming when I was 16 years old. I was
Mm-hmm.
a cook at Kentucky Fried Chicken, and I saved up my money from my job, and I got a drum set. But I'll it's a kind of an interesting story. I'll rewind a little bit. So I was 16 and I wanted to play the drums, so I went downtown to the music store and I told the drum teacher, and I said, "Well, I don't own drums, but I'm really determined to learn." She said she wasn't going to take me on as a student at first because she said, "How are you going to practice what I show you?" And I said, "Don't worry, I'll air drum." So she showed me something. All week I air drummed and I like whacked on pillows and stuff and I practiced. Then I went back the next week and I nailed it.
Mm.
She seemed really impressed that I got so good without even having drums to play. But that's the fun thing about drums is you can practice them anywhere. You can just whack tabletops or whack your legs or whatever.
I
And
like
so
your
I used to
trash
play.
can.
Oh yeah, the trash can.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Anything could be a drum. And I used to play drums in bands, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that playing drums in bands. Um, but then that complicates life. Like then you need a car and like to lug around my drums and to get to gigs. And I haven't been in a band in a long time. I've just been more focused on writing my own stuff. But yeah, drums were a really big passion. And then recently I had my own apartment for a while. I've never lived by myself before, but I had a set of electronic drums and I recorded a whole bunch of drum tracks while I was there. So I have like, I don't know, over 50 drum tracks like for future songs already recorded and
Hmm.
videotaped. So now I'm just periodically listening to these drum tracks and adding in other instruments, and they'll become full songs. But now I'm staying in a different apartment where I can't have electronic drums. So that's why when I had that other apartment, I wanted to record a lot of drum tracks. But thank you. Thanks for your kind words about my drumming. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like the drumming a lot, man. I know you play. It seems like you play a ton of instruments. I've seen you on an actual double bass. I've seen you on bass guitar. I've seen you on guitar. You have. I also saw your like one of your setups. You were in a room filled with instruments, which I thought was really cool. You had a Dream Theater poster in the background.
Yeah, that's a friend, Aaron, in California. He let me play his drums.
Ah, okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And let's see. I was gonna say, I don't really. I think that like as far as being in a band or something, I would only play the drums. I think that's
Mhm.
the instrument I'm okay at. The drums, pretty good at, I guess. But the other instruments, I'm just like faking it all and like just trying my best. And I don't consider
Mhm.
myself a good guitar player or bass player or anything like that. I'm just when you're a drummer and I think you have somewhat good timing, then it's like I'm playing drums on other instruments. Like so it's really helpful having that experience with rhythm playing the drums, because now like when I'm on a guitar, and I'm like picking, it's like instead of hitting the hi-hat or the snare drum, I have a pick on my hand and I'm hitting the guitar
Right.
strings. Yeah.
There's a percussive element to playing guitar often.
Yeah.
Um,
I've heard that about someone said that about Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters. They said the reason he's good at rhythm guitar is because he's a drummer. He's
hmm.
got the good timing.
That would make that would make a good amount of sense.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people they really do disregard music theory. I think the moment you learn any kind of classical instrument of some sort, you can really start to do a lot of different instruments. But yeah, everybody's going to have their specialty or their preference. For me, I was a violist, and then from there I now I use like FL Studio on a computer and whatnot. But I also play piano and guitar and stuff like that.
Wow, awesome. Do you perform live sometimes or?
I have not done that since I was like 16. But no, yeah, so it's basically just me in my room, cooped up, making stuff and then putting it out once a year or something like that.
Oh yeah, like writing your own songs?
hmm Writing, recording,
Great.
producing.
Wow. Well, I would look forward to listening. I'm excited.
I would greatly appreciate that. So my final question for you would be, do you have any advice for young people just trying to make it through today's climate, or do you have any specific messages you want to put out? Because I do need to unfortunately get going in a couple minutes here.
Yeah. Let's see. Advice. Well, my advice is, I guess, would be very controversial. I know a lot of parents put pressure on their kids to like think of money and go for what like a realistic career and whatever's going to make them the most money and that sort of thing. But I think follow your heart and do what you're passionate about, and just have a lot of fun. And I love for people to be happy. And as far as money, just I try to trust that the universe will always take care of me. And you can maybe get lots of roommates, and then if you all had a lot of roommates, then you could be artists and musicians and spend more time doing what you like to do. Like right now, so many people live alone and their rent is super high, so they have to work at a job they don't even like, and then they come home from work and they're too tired to work on their art and music or whatever it is they're passionate about. So I think try to have a low cost of living. Even don't feel bad about, like, if you're living with your parents still when you're 20, 30, 40, 50 years, whatever. If as long as it's win-win and you're helping them around the house and all that, I don't think there should be a stigma to, like, right now there's a stigma like, oh, you live with, like people used to say to me, oh, you live in your sister's basement or whatever. But I was helping them out and like contributing to rent, helping out around the house. But I loved having a low cost of living because it made my life less stressful, and I could focus on all the things I love to do, like activism and art and music.
I'd say that is a great message. Pursue what you want to do and avoid what others will. Avoid worrying about what others might say about what you enjoy and what you want to pursue.
Yeah.
I would have to agree about that.
Thank you. And we're trapped, like with cars, for instance. It's so expensive for gas and for insurance and the car and all that.
Yep.
But I love that I can ride my bike and walk and use public transportation, and I don't feel like a loser because I don't have a car. Like all the pressure we get, peer pressure, I don't fall under that. I like to think for myself more so. Yeah.
It's a respectable take. Not a common one. Definitely not, yeah. And especially in society today. Yeah. Big pressure to get a car. I just spent $600 on 6 months of liability insurance. I'm not happy about it. It's pretty brutal.
But the U.S. especially, and I can only imagine in Texas, like it's a big state, really probably everything's spread out. I know it's a lot easier to live without a car in some places, but I know the car culture in the U.S. is very, very strong. Like it's all about, I've heard the U.S. described as being an oil company with an army.
Yeah, one form or another. That's actually fairly accurate. It
Yeah.
definitely is.
Well, thank you very much for reaching out to me and wanting to do a talk. And I would have happily done it last night, but then my brother invited me over, and then we ended up after dinner, we had a campfire and all of that. So it was good. And then we got to talk today. So perfect.
Yeah, no worries, man. Great meeting you. Very fruitful conversation. I'm happy to have done it. And then I can contact you right now about music, and you can send me your Tosh by No video and all that. But yeah, it was awesome talking to you, man. It's great meeting you.
Perfect. Likewise, Caden. And if you do end up uploading this, I will share it on my Facebook page.
All right. I'll let you know about that. It'll take me some time to compile the footage and everything. But yeah.
Okay.
Great, man.
Thank you. All right. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And
All right.
thanks very much for taking the time to check out my music and my videos and all that. I appreciate that very much.
Always, I'm quite fascinated by the amount you've done. Yeah. All right. Well,
Thank you.
I'll see you, man. Have a great day.
Okay, you too. Bye, Caden.